as far as I'm concerned, the biggest story still is the Epstein disclosures. When you release 3 million documents in PDF form, and it's searchable, so you go to the Epstein database and you can look things up. And what's amazing, actually, I'll show you all how this works. You go there and you can have fun. I'm sure there's an AI method of filtering through so you can find what you're looking for. It asks you for your age, but I'm going to bring up one. Just you put in words, and you want to put in suspicious words. You want to put in curious words. You put in this word. If I can type this, watch what comes up here. Oh yeah, no, but well, let's be more specific here. Torture video, and there's an email in here which we're going to get to that requires some explanation. Do I want to? I'll click the first one. I think it's the same. It's the same document throughout. This is. It requires some explanation. We were told that there would be redactions for victims to protect the identities of victims, and I don't know, ongoing investigations. This is the explanation that's coming out of this that sort of defies credibility or defies logic. That we're being told on the one hand that if there's any new information, please bring it to us so that we can decide who to prosecute, which seems to suggest that there are not new or ongoing prosecutions or investigations for the purposes of prosecution, and redactions which either suggest victim or something else. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein from his jeevacation@gmail.com. Fun fact, if you're not new to the channel, you know this. He created that email when he got his sweetheart deal in 2007 with Costa, because his jail time for having to be a level 1 registered sex offender was such a vacation that he created this Jeffrey Epstein evacation@gmail.com email address. It's from him to we don't know whom. Right about the time, I think, when he was, serving out his sweetheart deal, Friday, April 24th, 2009, it says, "Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video." Does anybody understand what the hell's going on in that? Does anybody think that we are crazy? I mean, he could have just been talking about the Nicolas Cage movie 9mm, and he's like, "I just love that torture video." What the hell's going on? And if anybody in the chat knows, I mean, I've been trying to do as much due diligence verification as I can, both within the documents and beyond the documents. A lot of new information is coming out as people dive into this, and there's some highlights. I mean, that's one of them. Just so we memorialize this in real time. From Jeffrey Epstein to we don't know whom. Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video. Maybe it was a typo and auto-dictate. He meant the tortoise video. Who knows? I'm not even trying to be glib. So there's that. There's been a bunch of other documents that require some explanation, not the least of which is one involving Howard Lutnick. Now, we covered this back in the day, that Lutnick bought the property that was literally next door to Jeffrey Epstein, and it was through entities that were directly or indirectly related to Jeffrey Epstein's businesses. Well, let's see where this one is. I want to play the video of an answer that Lutnick gave to a question, which hasn't aged particularly well. And these are the frustrating things, is that you're told X, Y, and Z, or X, Y, and Z, and then you see things which contradict what you've heard before, and then you start to lose some serious faith in the people who are making the decisions in an administration that you want to succeed and that needs to succeed. Now, what the name of oh gosh, now I just oh gosh, what did I just do here? No, it's here. I can't find the video. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get this here. Give me a link to the tweet where Viva Fry tweets at Lutnik. It's very frustrating. I'm trying to keep track of my thoughts here. I think I have this one in the backdrop somewhere. We're going to get to the video of the alleged suicide, which we were also told existed. Okay, this is it right here. So, hold on here. Okay, it's right here. Let me bring this up. Bring this up in incognito. And we're going to talk about this one right now. You were number 11. Here it is right here. Okay.
He was your neighbor.
Play this answer. This is with Miranda Devine, an answer that he gave a little while back. And I'll play this out as well. Maybe not all of it.
He was your neighbor for 10 years. How well did you know him?
All right. So we are in number 11 and he lives in number 9.
Right.
So we renovate, we buy our house, and our house is pigeons and mice.
Right.
Okay. That's it. It was derelict.
Right.
So we rebuild our house. We move in 2005. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 08, I think, or something like that.
Right.
So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. So my wife and I go next door. You know, we walk the 7 steps,
Yes.
right, to the next house for coffee. We share a wall.
Right.
Right. So it's in New York City. So he invites us in. We have coffee in this, and he says, do you want a tour? We said, great.
Interesting.
He's got a really big house.
Every room you went into?
He's got, well, I'll tell you. So his house is like super big, really wide. And so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he like gets like weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
All right. Now, I'll correct myself on something here in real time. The Howard Lutnick bought the property from a trust called Comet Trust. Jeffrey Epstein sold the property to Comet Trust. 2 years later, it sold to Howard Lutnick. They were next door neighbors to each other for an extended period of time. And that was, by Lutnick's own admission, his first and creepy interaction with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, it turns out, as now has been disclosed, that he was actually mildly in business. Now, I'm taking from Fox News, by the way, because you go to CBS News and they're going to say Lutnick lies, was in business as revealed by the Epstein files. I'll take from Fox News, which is definitely more sympathetic to the Trump administration, to see how they frame this. Massie, top oversight Democrat, called for Secretary Lutnick to resign for, quote, lying about alleged Epstein ties. Lutnick accused of lying about relationship with Epstein after DOJ files suggest 2012 investment partnership. And now people are going to say, what is this, guilt by association? How much, what are the levels of business ties that you should avoid because you know that you're going to, have some sort of shared interest with someone who, even according to Lutnick, is a disgusting pervert who had a massage room and was getting the right types of massages. This is the story. Top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee piled onto calls from Rep. Thomas Massie, Kentucky, on Monday for Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to step down in light of alleged business ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Files released by the DOJ suggest that Lutnick and Epstein bought stakes together in a technology company called Adfin in 2012. Lutnick, who is listed among 9 other investors, appears as a signatory alongside Epstein, who is named as a preferred holder. Now, these are, I ask these questions. Everything sounds tongue-in-cheek and more sassy than it should on Twitter. If the explanation from Lutnick is, I knew this guy, I had no interactions with him. We're investors in a company, and I can't control who the other investors are. And I'm not going to turn down business opportunities just because there's some guy who gave me the heebie-jeebies 4 years earlier who is listed as a preferred holder. But did you actively try to conceal that? because of how Epstein's reputation turned out and how everybody who had anything to do with Epstein needs to resign from their jobs or get fired or whatever. Notably, the purchase is dated 4 years after Epstein was convicted in 2008 of sexual abuse involving a 14-year-old girl. Rep. Garcia said the documents clearly contradicts previous statements from Lutnick about his relationship with Epstein. It's now clear that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has been lying about his relationship with Epstein. He said he had no interactions with Epstein. Now, he might not have had interactions with him. If that's the explanation, he should make it. Sure, we invested in the company, we signed off, that's it. I don't know what the other 8 people were like in their private lives either. Lutnick must resign or be fired, and he must answer our questions, Garcia added. Garcia follow similar comments made by Massie on Sunday. I can see why people don't like Massie these days, or at least some people. When asked about Lutnick's appearance in the files on CNN, Massie also said that Lutnick should step down. He should resign. Prince Andrew lost his title for less than what we've seen Howard Lutnick lie about, Massie said, referring to the member of the royal family who was stripped of his titles last year for his association with Epstein. I don't know if it was for less than what Lutnick may, in fact, have done in real life. I think it might have been a little bit more. There's some credible evidence and credible allegations against what's his face? Prince Andrew. He was in business with Jeffrey Epstein, and this was many years after Epstein was convicted of sex crimes. So he's got a lot to answer for. Other documents in the Epstein files reveal communications between Lutnick and Epstein's staff that suggests Lutnick may have met with Epstein in the Virgin Islands. Jeffrey Epstein understands you will be down in St. Thomas sometime over the holidays. Jeffrey requested I please pass along some phone numbers to you so you can probably get together. Yet, in response to an inquiry from Fox News on the criticism from Garcia and Massie, a spokesperson for the Department of Commerce, framed their demands as a distraction. Mr. Lutnick met Jeffrey Epstein in 2005, had very limited interactions with him over the next 14 years. There's nothing more than a failing attempt by the legacy media to distract from the administration's accomplishments, including securing trillions of dollars in investment, delivering historic trade deals, and fighting for American worker. House Oversight Committee James Comer did not respond to a request for comment on whether the committee would consider questioning Lutnick as part of the committee's ongoing probes. What a tangle web we weave when at first we seek to deceive. The reality is, it might not be anything more than tangential business interactions. I don't know, they're in the same neighborhoods. They live literally next door to each other. But that type of inaccurate statement that comes back to haunt you, you can't blame people for arguably, but not arguably, making a mountain of a molehill. It seems like not much of an oversight to have forgotten about, and whether or not you didn't disclose it because it was in your mind insignificant and irrelevant, well, it's rearing its ugly head again. And I say this to someone, look, Lutnick, when was he just? He was just at the WEF, and he had a statement that I liked. Let me see this here. Link to tweet where Viva Frei compliments Lutnick at WEF Davos. He said something great in his statement to Davos. I want to bring it up so that it's here. Hold on, is this it? That one doesn't exist. Well, he had a good statement at Davos. I forget exactly what it was about, but I remember being very much in agreement about it. But this is not the type of thing that you can now think. You're going to have to answer these questions, period. Buy the next door property from a trust that Epstein sold his house to. You see that in the title. You know who he is. You live next door to him. You say it was such a perverted, gross relationship. The first experience, it was a one and done. And then stuff indicates it wasn't a one and done. Maybe there's a good explanation for it. Maybe there's not. But an explanation, maybe this will fade out of the current news cycle and the world will move on with the torrent of information that we are getting into.